Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope your work week is off to a good start. It's a game day down here in South Louisiana. Saints and Carolina get underway at 6 o'clock tonight. We'll head up to Charlotte here in 30 minutes and chat with former Saints wide receiver and WDSU contributor Lance Moore. Got some thoughts on goings-on in the Southeastern Conference over the weekend. See what my picks did. We'll see. Denton Day with us for National College Football Thoughts at 2:30. But I got to tell you, Saturday was enjoyable. Saturday was very enjoyable for me. Get up, get the kiddo some milk, watch some Bluey. We're on the air at 9 o'clock. Tigers kick off at 11. It's an absolute blowout. Enjoyable second half. Stress-free. My out cue on Saturday was 3:55 p.m., and I was done for the day work-wise. And then I tweeted this out, and this sounds like ridiculous because most people who are listening to this show are pretty big football fans, and you would consider me as someone who hosts this show and works in different capacities in football. I'm a pretty big football fan. But as I've said many times, like, I don't get to watch a ton of college football. You can basically block out 8 hours of every Saturday that I have. But thankfully, 2 of those 8 were 9 to 11, where there is no football going on, and that's when I was on the air. And then I got to come home at 4. I watched a ton of football on Saturday. So I'm excited to get into some of that in the second hour. But we're going to start, obviously, with the Fighting Tigers and what we saw from them in Starkville on Saturday morning into the early afternoon. The final was 41-14, and I kind of saw this one coming. This was a really good matchup for LSU. We think right now that there's an issue with LSU potentially in the secondary. Mississippi State doesn't have the dudes to expose that and really don't have the game plan to want to expose that. And then you look at LSU offensively, and I thought that they'd be able to hold up at the line of scrimmage, and you got a lot of weapons on the outside. And then you add into that matchup situation a red-hot Jaden Daniels, and you've got a nightmare situation for Mississippi State. And it played out that way. Daniels had an absolute flamethrower. I mean, last year against Florida, 393 total yards and 6 touchdowns. Last year against Ole Miss, 369 total yards and 5 touchdowns. And we saw it again on Saturday. And, you know, there's this schism within the fan base that people are very vocal on. There are some that are not thrilled with the way Jaden Daniels has played, and there are some that really like the way he's played. I haven't played too much into that. I've just kind of given you some statistics and some feelings and some thoughts that I have. I don't feel overwhelmingly passionate about the situation, but there are many people who do. And I think it would be very easy to say, oh, well, if you've doubted Jaden Daniels, then you're just a clown. Look at that. And okay, like, he was awesome on Saturday, but by the same token, I think a lot of people who have not been thrilled with the way Jaden Daniels has played have said he just needs to throw it down the field. Well, he threw it down the field. He threw it down the field a lot, and all of it essentially was targeted at number 8. And Mississippi State continued to throw safeties over there who couldn't cover him and corners over there in one-on-one that couldn't cover him. It was sometimes first down. It was sometimes fourth down, sometimes third down, sometimes in the red zones. No matter what, it didn't work. Jaden Daniels threw the football to Malik Neighbors 13 times. Malik Neighbors caught the ball 13 times. If you put my cat on Malik Neighbors, he'd probably catch it 13 times. Put my 20-month-old son on Malik Neighbors, he'd probably catch it 13 times. That's the amount of effectiveness that Mississippi State had playing defense against the number 1 wide receiver at LSU. And they never adjusted or did anything differently or did anything better. And Jaden Daniels was red hot. Dropping it in the bucket on 4th downs, taking off when he needed to, feeling the pressure and getting it away. I mean, I thought one of the best plays he made was early in the game on a 3rd down and medium when he got pressure up the middle and hit Brian Thomas over the middle for just short of the sticks. Because there was pressure. It was a hot route. He had to get it out quickly. He did, and the completion was made. But even in the ones when he had time, he put it on the money. He was sensational on Saturday. He started 12 of 12. He finished with the best completion percentage in a single game in LSU football history. And that performance statistically goes up with some of the best ever. And you've obviously got Rohan against Alabama in 2001 where Josh Reed had almost 300 yards of receiving. You've got some Burrow games against Texas and certainly against Bama. Burrow in the game against Oklahoma in the semifinal. And I'm not going to put Jaden Daniels at 11 o'clock in the morning in September against Mississippi State up against those in terms of the significance and the stage, because it doesn't matter. Those two are apples and oranges. But it was a special show that Jaden Daniels put on, and that's in there. He's got every tool you need from a college football quarterback. Could he put on 15 pounds for the NFL? Sure. Does he have the strongest arm you're going to see each and every Saturday? No. But as far as college football quarterbacks go, he's got the toolbox. And when you've got an advantage matchup and he starts getting hot, we've now seen it a couple times over 3 years. There's very little the opposition can do. And Malik Neighbors was sensational as well. 239 yards. That ties Josh Reed's Sugar Bowl against Illinois for the fourth most in LSU history. Of course, you had Kayshawn against Ole Miss in the COVID year for 308, SEC record. Josh Reed's 293 at Alabama. Todd Kenshin had 249 yards as well against Mississippi State. Fourth all-time for Malik in that game. And what's humorous is that in the summer of 2020, in the throes of COVID, when there was no official visits, when college football recruiting was in a dark period, Malik committed to Mississippi State. 3 years later, in a couple months, he's just making everybody in maroon miserable. It was an unbelievable effort. And that wasn't, to me, all that we saw that was positive from LSU's offense. It wasn't just Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors. I thought that the running game looked pretty good from Diggs and then Jackson. And I would hope that the carries would kind of shift maybe 80% towards those two guys. Yeah, Josh Williams has his place. They really trust him in pass pro. He does run hard. Noah Cain's an older player, and you can certainly count on him to get some short yardage situations. And then Emory when the time calls and he's ready to play. But for me, it's Diggs and Jackson. And the play that Jackson made on the highlight reel where he jump cuts it to the outside, stiff arms a guy, runs over another. You all know the play I'm talking about, the highlight reel play. That gets all the pub. You realize outside of that, he had 4 carries for 6 yards. So it wasn't like he just went nuts. He just had the highlight reel play. What the highlight reel play does is, to me, illustrate the upside, right? He's able to hit that jump cut. He's able to use his speed to get to the corner, use the stiff arm, and then the strength and power to run over the defensive back on the side is something that just the rest of the group doesn't have. Now, there are more complete backs. Do I want Caleb Jackson in there in pass pro against Ole Miss next week or Arkansas this week? Not necessarily. Y'all saw what Logan Diggs did, that blitzing linebacker. He decleated him at one point. That's the difference between a junior who's been doing this for 3 years and a freshman who hasn't been playing football his entire life, who's got immense talent running the ball but needs to learn the intricacies of everything else that goes on the field. But I thought LSU did a pretty good job running the ball. You look at the final stat sheet. You saw Logan Diggs had 41 yards, ran for about 4.5 a carry. You saw the flash from Caleb Jackson. And then you saw Jaden Daniels move things with his feet as well, including some design runs, one of which resulted in a touchdown. So that was encouraging because you didn't do any of that against Florida State. Now, there were some negatives, I thought, on the offense, and we'll get to those intentionally on the end of this segment as we've talked a lot of positives. Lance Hurd's still learning. You saw the holding penalty. T-Bob, who I would trust far more than me on that situation, said he didn't like the holding call that Hurd got. Look, it looked like he may have grabbed a little bit, but T-Bob said he replaced, and I'll take T-Bob's word for it, but he did get called for the holding. So there's something there. But he's learning, and he's coming along. I thought Mac Markway struggled in Mason Taylor's absence. He had a couple times where he was asked to get out on the perimeter and block for a screen play, a slip screen or a running back screen, and he missed those blocks. Brian Kelly went nuts on one of those. At one point in the first quarter, Markway was confused on a substitution, and LSU had to burn a timeout. They were trying to get a short yardage play in. That stuff is going to happen for freshmen, and it did for Hurd and Markway. And then Will Campbell, just very uncharacteristically, Will Campbell with 4 penalties on the day. One was just being over-aggressive and losing his cool for a personal foul, but he did jump. He did get a holding call on him as well. And you saw him, if you were watching on television, for those that weren't at the game, he blew it. He went nuts. Kelly did on Will Campbell late in the game, said, get him out. That's 4 penalties. And the only thing I got from that, which we thought we were confident in but didn't know, when Campbell came out, Emory Jones did move to left tackle. So in the event that Will Campbell would come out of a game at some point for whatever reason, which this time it was just because the coach was ticked off, it's going to be Emory Jones playing the left tackle and Lance Hurd going in at right tackle. But for LSU offensively, I'm not going to find too much to quibble with. Jaden Daniels was sensational. The up front guys did a really good job. Malik Neighbors was a true number 1. Brian Thomas was a true number 2. Had 7 catches for 60 yards, including some contested catches, which I really liked to see. You got some different running backs involved that hadn't been in the past. I thought Mike Denbrock did a really good job of calling the game. LSU was in control essentially the entire time. I just thought it was great, and it was evidence of what this LSU offense can be. And this LSU offense can be as good as any offense in the Southeastern Conference. Ole Miss has had their moments good and bad. Georgia's had their moments good and bad. A&M's had their moments good and bad on offense. I'm not ready to go there with Alabama just yet, and Tennessee really looked like it was struggling against Austin Peay and Florida, so I'm not ready to go there yet, and we'll talk the rest of the SEC coming up later. But LSU at this point could be as good an offensive team as there is in the SEC. Now, I'm well aware of the second half in Orlando. That looked terrible. Your offensive line got overwhelmed. You couldn't run the ball at all. Your quarterback was under pressure and didn't make great decisions. You had drops. Like, it's not perfect, but the pieces are there for this to be a really, really good offense, and that's an exciting thing. And they showed that against a team that was outmatched on Saturday, and that's kind of what I like about Mississippi State is you open conference with them. You bring your B game, you're going to get a win. You bring your A game, you're going to get a laugher. You bring your C game, you're going to be for a dogfight. More often than not with Mississippi State, LSU brought their A game, I thought, on Saturday, and they walked away with a 41-14 victory. So good stuff there. We'll talk to Lance more about the Saints and Panthers, but when we come back, we're going to get to LSU on the defensive side of the ball against Mississippi State. This is the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
The NFL season's here. Now's the time to get incredible offers from America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app's easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. Visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as a non-withdrawable bonus bet that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP. NFL Sunday Ticket offer ends 9/18/23. No refunds. Terms and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and current form of payment. Commercial use excluded. Subscription renews. Cancel anytime.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. I think we're rocking and rolling.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping LSU Mississippi State. You'll hear from Brian Kelly, and we'll preview Monday Night Football with the Saints and the Panthers. So join us for Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Lance Moore with us in 13 minutes. Saints and Panthers tonight at 6 o'clock from Charlotte. But LSU beats Mississippi State 41-14. Phenomenal offensive headlines that stole the day, but the defense was very, very good on Saturday. Look, we're going to get to my SEC picks in 45 minutes. They're atrocious again. I've been awful against the number in the SEC. But the two LSU games that have mattered, LSU Mississippi State, and LSU Florida State, I have had a pretty good feel and sense for how those games were going to go, which is encouraging to me early in the season. I thought that Mississippi State would struggle to get the run game going against LSU. I thought LSU's defensive front was built to slow that down, and they did. Woody Marks had a 52-yard run right before the half. Zy Alexander missed a tackle on it, and it set up the Mississippi State touchdown before the half. But other than that, their running backs went 20 carries for 42 yards. I did not think that Mississippi State would get the running game going, and they did not. I thought Whit Weeks was a nice little add in there at linebacker. He had an early tackle for a loss, and I thought did a good job in the absence of Spates. He led the team with 8 tackles. I thought Harold Perkins was very present, had 2 tackles for loss, and consistently was pressuring off the edge on third downs. And I thought LSU up front did a really, really good job. And so I thought that Will Rogers would have to win this game for Mississippi State. I thought the game would be put in his hands. And in my opinion, entering the game, those were pretty capable hands. And LSU forced him into the worst day in his Mississippi State career. He was 11 of 28. That's 39% completion for 103 yards without a touchdown. LSU got home for 4 sacks in the game. Perkins had one. Wingo had one. You had Major Burns get in there for one. Savion Jones had a good one early off the right edge. LSU just annihilated Mississippi State. I did not feel that the Bulldog receivers were going to be able to consistently put pressure on LSU's DBs. And they didn't. LSU owned it. They owned first down, second down, third down. There was nothing that Mississippi State could do. And I think LSU deserves a lot of credit for that. However, and that's the most important thing for us here. However, I do want to spend a little bit of time on this. What Zach Arnett and his offensive coordinator, Barbay, are doing offensively is malpractice. That is as hellacious of an offense as I have ever seen. And they've got what could be the all-time leading passer in the history of the Southeastern Conference. Now, I know that I'm not ready to put Will Rogers up there with the all-time talents in SEC quarterback history, okay? That's not the point. I understand that these statistics are piled up because of the system he played in and the air raid and they're throwing it every down. But still,
if you start for 3 years and throw for a ton of yards and win a lot of games like Will Rogers has, you ought to be able to function in an offense. And he is totally incapable of functioning in this offense. I likened it to this, intentionally using hyperbole on the postgame show on Saturday. Intentional hyperbole here, mind you. But this is like asking the Golden State Warriors to pound the ball down in the paint. Stop shooting jump shots. Go get around the bucket. This is like asking Aroldis Chapman, one of the hardest throwing closers in Major League Baseball history, hey, man, start mixing in a lot of sliders. Throw some change-ups away, okay? Let's try to locate. This is like telling Harold Perkins, hey, back up. We need you to cover a lot. Get out in the nickel. You are taking a guy that's so comfortable in the shotgun with the field spread, working around the line of scrimmage and saying, hey, man, would you hand the ball off? Would you work a bunch of play action and try to get things really developing down the field? They are taking a square peg at this round hole and just beating away on a hammer, and nothing's happening. I mean, atrocious coaching by Mississippi State. And there are growing pains in a transition. Sure, I get that. Everybody's got them. But this is a veteran team that ought to be able to execute at a reasonable level in an SEC game. They looked like a JV squad on Saturday. Jordan Travis was playing catch against air 2 weeks ago. Grambling went up and down the field for 2 drives. State was incompetent. And this is not going to be our problem for the next 8 weeks, and we'll continue to move forward with LSU football. But I've got to react to what I watched on Saturday. And if I'm a Mississippi State fan, I got big problems. Because this entire team's about to graduate. I told you for 2 weeks, Mississippi State starts 20 seniors out of 22 guys. They're all going to graduate. And then you're going to come back in year 2 and be worse than that? That looked like 0-8 to me. You got to give a runway to coaches, and certainly the situation that Zach Arnett walked into was tragic and very difficult. But the product on the field on Saturday was abysmal. I love LSU, and I hope that this was this defense flipping a switch and becoming a force for this team. I hope this was the start of a team that's figured out what they want to be, kind of got a grasp of things, got their feet on the ground post Jordan Travis, and it's going to be really, really strong for the rest of the way. But if I'm awarding points based on who was responsible of more on Saturday, the LSU defense and the Mississippi State offense, I think I'm going 60-40 State offense. I think LSU was 40% responsible for this. I think the Mississippi State coaching staff and the efficiency of their offense was 60% of this. Offensive line, not great. Guys on the outside, not really explosive. Quarterback, totally lost. And not only was he having trouble making reads, when he did make reads, he was skipping throws. He looked so comfortable for 3 years. Even when they weren't necessarily moving the football a lot, they were completing 2- and 3-yard passes or getting one batted down at the line of scrimmage. He didn't know where he wanted to throw it. When he did, he was skipping it and short hopping it. He looks like he's on a different planet than he was on the last 3 years. I was blown away. So again, this is not going to be our problem the rest of the way, because you've seen it and you move on, and now you got to deal with Arkansas and Ole Miss and Auburn and Army and Alabama. We'll get on to more important issues, but I would be grossly negligent if I didn't mention what I watched from Mississippi State on Saturday. That was incompetence at its highest. But again, I'm hopeful with LSU. I'm hopeful that Savion Jones is starting to figure some things out and can be the rusher that I hoped for in August. That was a big key of mine in camp. Where's the pass rush going to come from? Savion Jones kind of needs to be the next guy. Ojulari took over for Caleb Chason and took over for Arden Key. Like you had the guy, and Savion Jones was kind of like the next guy that should be it. He was disruptive on Saturday. Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo should be forceful in the middle. Maybe you found something in the freshman weeks. And maybe you're doing a little bit better job of covering down the field because Will Rogers certainly didn't feel like he had a lot of places to go. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I cut up the all-22 and was diving into that for 4 hours yesterday, but if there were guys wide open, I think Will Rogers probably would have found them. So hopefully they covered a little bit as well, and you're starting to get a little confidence. Matt House's defense very much improved as time went on last year. I'm going to convince myself that they just got tired, and that's why they couldn't shed blocks and make tackles against A&M. Because I don't have a really good explanation as to how that happened other than the fact that LSU could not have played very well. 6 days prior, Mississippi State couldn't do anything against UMass. Sorry, A&M couldn't do anything against UMass. They had to have gotten tired, but they improved as time went on last year. Hopefully that's the case this year because there is some talent out there. I'm still concerned about the secondary. And if we don't find out about it on Saturday, we'll certainly find out about it in 2 weeks in Oxford. 5 o'clock kickoff, by the way, just announced today. But I'm hopeful that LSU's defense kind of figured some things out and is moving in the right direction. This is what we talked about on Friday. And I'll leave you with this with LSU and Mississippi State. We'll get back to it a little bit later, but we're going to chat with Lance Moore here in 5 minutes. You have an opportunity based on the way the schedule sets up to get that Florida State taste out of your mouth and to move forward positively. And that was a great first step Saturday. I'm not going to count Grambling. And it's funny that you can look at the Bayou Ford chat, you can look at message boards, my Twitter, my text messages from friends, whatever. And after Florida State, there's just panic and chaos everywhere. And after Mississippi State, you say, well, everybody else in the West stinks. We're going to Atlanta. This team can make the playoff. They can win the rest of the games. And I just can't get caught up in either one of those. I'm not going to throw everything away after you lose to Florida State, and I'm not going to proclaim everything's fixed and everything's awesome after you beat Mississippi State. I'm going to kind of stay even keel. It's kind of the baseball nature in me to just kind of react to things as they come and stay between the buoys. But LSU has some talent, has the ability to overwhelm some teams that aren't as talented, and the West inarguably looks like it's there for the taking. Now, whether LSU's going to step up and take it remains to be seen, but it appears that that's a possibility. Got to start on Saturday at home against a team that did not look great on Saturday against BYU. Talk about the rest of the teams in the Southeastern Conference coming up at 2 o'clock. But we'll take a timeout when we come back. Former Saints great Lance Moore's up in Charlotte. Saints-Panthers at 6 o'clock. We're talking about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Ochsner Health and MD Anderson Cancer Center have partnered to create Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center in southeastern Louisiana. This collaboration between Ochsner and MD Anderson provides patients in our region with access to cancer treatments that are among the most advanced in the nation. Also, provides access to fully integrated cancer programs based on MD Anderson's practice standards, their treatment plans, their protocols, their specialists, their researchers, all that available to the folks at Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. They're also offering groundbreaking research and initiative therapies. Plus, they're giving advanced clinical trials to eligible patients, which is fantastic news. Right now, 7 locations offering expert care in New Orleans, St. Tammany, and in Baton Rouge. And Ochsner and MD Anderson are working together to certify additional sites moving forward. If you'd like to learn more about cancer, something that affects all of us, we invite you to head over to Ochsner.org. That's Ochsner.org.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Officially, it's a fridge full of beer. Unofficially, it's free AC. Coors Light, the official beer of everything unofficial.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months on all new 23 Ram 1500 trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come
Charles Hannegriff join us for the next edition of Live at Lunch from Doe's Eat Place in Mid-City on Government Street. Andy Isco is with us. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it's important. I think anytime, whether it's you're getting off to a fast start with the season, you're getting off to a fast start in an individual game, you're getting a fast start, within your division. I mean, I think those are all important things to try to accomplish.
That's the voice of Saints head coach Dennis Allen. I don't know if it was the fastest start I ever saw, but it was fast enough as they got out to a 1-0 start, beating the Titans last weekend, and they'll head up to Charlotte tonight to take on the Panthers in a divisional game in Monday Night Football. Lance Moore, NFL vet of 11 years, Super Bowl champion and Saints Hall of Famer, up there in Charlotte with Sharif Ishak. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Lance, thanks for the time. How are you?
Doing well. Ready for the game tonight. Hopefully we can build off of what we started last week and make 1-0, 2-0.
Yeah, 2-0 is the goal, and 1-0 certainly was. They got it done. What did you make in totality of the Saints' offense last week?
I bet it's a work in progress. It's tough whenever you're without one of your best players, and obviously I'm referring to Alvin Kamara. He's somebody that you can do so many different things with. When he's not there, the offense can sometimes look like it needs a boost. But with that being said, I feel like at least the passing game looked to me like one that could be one of the better ones in the National Football League. Obviously, Derek is a quarterback that likes to push the ball down the field. I think that's something we're going to see more of throughout this season and hopefully a bunch of tonight. I think the running game needs to be better. And we don't necessarily have to run the football 35, 40 times a game. I do think we need to run the ball more effectively and being able to, maintain a solid time of possession and maintain drives and give our defense a break when we can with long offensive drives. I think that, our offense didn't show all of what it's capable of last week, but I think there's a few signs of what's to come. And I think what a great opportunity for us tonight here in Charlotte to play against a really good defense. Defense has got players at every level, and it'll be a challenge for us for sure. It's a divisional opponent, and all divisional games on the road generally are pretty tough to win. So we've got to work that out for us for sure.
You mentioned throwing the ball down the field. I think the biggest example of that last week was the third down play in the fourth quarter late where they hit Shaheed to basically put the game on ice. I've had a couple of conversations on air about that play, and the consensus has been they may not have tried that last year. Why do you think they decided to do it this year?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with Derek Carr, right? There's more confidence in Derek Carr, and then you go to Shaheed, right? He was a rookie last year, so maybe in a situation like that, Jameis is not thinking, hey, I want to go to Rashid Shaheed, this undrafted free agent guy, in week 1 of the season. So I think that it's a moment that we all got a close view of through social media and the film that the Saints and NFL released. Took us really into the mind of Derek Carr and Pete Carmichael and those guys to see what exactly they were thinking in that moment. But honestly, I mean, I think that is an amazing sign of things to come with this offense and kind of Derek taking it and making it his own, right? I don't know that Pete would have necessarily been ready to call that play in that moment, but Derek said, this is what I want to do. And that those types of things go a long way as far as the quarterback taking ownership of the offense and his leadership role and the coaches trusting him and him trusting the young receiver. I mean, all those things are important for good offenses, and I think that's something that we'll see more and more as the season goes along.
Chatting with Lance Moore, former Saints great, up there in Charlotte, Saints and Panthers today at 6 p.m. You mentioned the word trust a couple of times there. I'm just a novice observer here. You were a pro for better than a decade. How much do you think Derek Carr, Pete Carmichael, and the Saints trust Trevor Penning at left tackle right now?
Well, I can't tell you for sure, right?
Right.
'Cause I'm not having conversations with those guys. But I do think that as bad as that first half was last week, the second half was a lot better, right? We gave up 4 sacks in the first half, no sacks in the second half, and Pete Carmichael and all the other offensive coaches figured out, okay, maybe we do need to give him a little bit of help. This is still essentially his rookie year because he hasn't played in enough games to be considered a veteran player. We can give him a little bit of help, take some of the edge off over there on that left side, and things started to work out a lot better. Now, Brian Burns is an elite pass rusher that we're playing against tonight. I know that the plan going into this game will be better from the first snap of the game than it was last week. Whereas I think the Titans have really good interior rushers and maybe not the greatest outside guys. So I think that's probably why the plan was to leave Penning kind of one-on-one over there in those matchups where he struggled. But I also think he's a pro, right? So he's going to get back in the lab and watch the film and get back on the field and figure out the proper techniques to be using against guys that have that elite rush ability. And, you couple that with a better game plan, right? Giving them some help, maybe some chips from the running backs out of the backfield. And maybe it's just a tight end in that position that takes the edge off of the rush. I think there'll be a better plan offensively. And I expect him to just play better personally in this game.
J.C. Horn, the number 1 cover corner for Carolina, not going to play in this ball game. How does that change things for the Saints offensively with these wide receivers?
Well, I mean, obviously, if they're without their best cover guy, it's an opportunity for us to potentially, take some more shots over on where he would be. But honestly, when we were doing offensive game plans, when I played, we weren't really looking at the defense and where certain guys are lined up and if they're in on this personnel grouping. It's in my mind, it's offense as usual. We're going to call our plays and we're going to expect our playmakers to go out and make those plays. It doesn't really matter who's on the other side, honestly. I mean, there's very few players in my career that I played against that the coordinators were saying, hey, well, maybe we're not going to take, too many shots at this guy. I mean, there's not that many, in my mind, elite corners where you don't want to challenge them at all. I mean, if they're great, okay, we're going to make them play great. We're not going to change up how we play our offense based on who's lined up against us defensively. If anything, it's an opportunity to take some more shots. But like I said, Sean Payton used to always say it's a faceless opponent over on the other side. It doesn't matter who's over there. We're going to go and do our thing, and we're going to do everything that we can to take advantage of whoever's over there, no matter who it is.
That may make this a bad question then, because on the other side from the Saints defensively is a rookie quarterback making his primetime home debut in Bryce Young. We saw him last week turn the ball over a couple times against Atlanta. How do you think Dennis Allen approaches facing that rookie quarterback?
Well, it's not a bad question because we're talking about a quarterback. Now, obviously, that's different than one defensive back in an 11-man defense. This kid is elite and special with what he can do athletically. He's very, very smart, and I honestly think that he's going to be a very good player. With that being said, I don't think the Carolina Panthers' recipe for success is dropping him back to pass 38 times as they did last week. I think they're going to want to rely on the run game first and foremost, and after that, the play action, boots and naked, getting him out of the pocket, being able to use his athleticism to extend plays or to, third and long situations, potentially tucking the ball down and trying to run for first down. I think our defense has its work cut out for it. I mean, I don't think this is going to be some easy matchup because we're playing against a rookie quarterback. I mean, if history tells us anything, is that this Saints organization, for whatever reason, has struggled with mobile quarterbacks, rookie or not. So I think the job that the front has is very difficult as far as keeping him in the pocket, not allowing him to extend plays with his legs, getting their hands up when the ball is coming out from the pocket. It's a shorter quarterback, which could potentially lead to more tips, and hopefully more tips lead to more interceptions. If we can get pressure on him and keep him in the pocket, then I think it'll be a very, very successful night for our defense and potentially taking the ball away and giving extra possessions back to our offense.
Panthers took it to the Saints twice last year. How do you think it goes tonight?
I think we win. I think that we are a better team than we were last year, and I think that rookie quarterback. It's their home opener. Obviously, they're going to be juiced up and ready to go. But I think that this team is different. I think we've got bigger fish to fry, and it's a divisional game. We're going to be ready to play. We're going to remember what happened in those games last year. And to me, it's more specific to the game early on in the season where we came in and nobody thought that the Panthers could beat us, and they kind of took it to us. So. Kind of righting the wrongs of last year and kind of making a statement as far as where this team could potentially be at the end of the season and kind of us hopefully looking like we're on another level than a very, very young team that's starting a quarterback for his, rookie season in only his second game.
He's a Saints Hall of Famer and a Super Bowl champion. Lance Moore, good enough to give us some time here on Game Day. Lance, thanks so much, and make sure Sharif behaves himself, okay?
Will do. Thank you, guys.
He's Lance Moore. We appreciate his time very, very much. I'll give my pick a little bit later on Saints and Panthers, but excited to get home early. Monday night kickoff, 6 o'clock, so you don't have to stay up till 11:30 watching the end of the game. It's going to be a relatively early night, but a night game nonetheless, and a big one for the Saints in the division against a team that, as we said, beat them twice last year. And if the Saints can get off to a 2-0 start, really feel good about where things can head after that. So we'll be talking about that as we move forward. My picks against the spread, Southeastern Conference from Saturday, coming up in 15 minutes, but we'll close out hour number one first. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. Telling you about Marucci Sports. I think you're fairly familiar with Marucci Sports, but you may not know its roots. Look, it's in the backyard shed here in Baton Rouge. Marucci started handcrafting some bats. Now all of a sudden, some of the best players in the game are using them. A lot of the best players in the game are using them. Plus, they have other things. It's not just a bat company. They've got pioneering initiatives such as the Baseball Performance Lab that they've expanded, and their workforce has grown by 137% because of it. That's helped to attract and keep some top talent here in the state of Louisiana, which is always something that we're trying to do in this state. Meanwhile, Marucci World Series, that's a huge tourism juggernaut here in Baton Rouge, draws thousands of youth athletes, families, and coaches to Greater Baton Rouge each and every July. Marucci Sports is a champion of Louisiana. If you know of a champion of Louisiana, we'd love to tell their story. LWCC would love to recognize them as a champion of Louisiana. You can nominate them at lwcc.com/champions. as well as look at some of the champions we've told you about over the last year and a half. Marucci Sports is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $12,000 off MSRP or 2.9% for 72 months on all new 23 Ram 1500 trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade, time to slip away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me, like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to Six Rings Baseball.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping LSU Mississippi State. You'll hear from Brian Kelly, and we'll preview Monday Night Football with the Saints and the Panthers. So join us for Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Big congrats to Maurice Salemi. Salemi. Sorry for butchering your name, Maurice, but I think your mood's probably pretty good because you're the Week 3 winner, the 2023 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em Contest. Win a Twin Peaks gift card. Don't forget, make your picks for Week 4 by noon on Thursday. You can play the 2023 Twin Peaks College Football Pick'em today at 1045ESPN.com. Hunt Palmer here with you until 3 o'clock, hanging out on a Monday. Hope your work week is off to a very, very good start. Lots to get to in hour number 2, including my picks against the spread against for Southeastern Conference football. And I'll also just give you my thoughts on the game, which are probably more interesting than my picks, which, to no one's surprise, sucked out loud. But I wanted to spend a little bit of time here closing out the hour with the NFL, and I watched all of Bengals-Ravens yesterday. Battle of 2 Heisman winners, Lamar and Joe, and knew how big a game this was for Cincinnati. They had lost week 1, did not look good at all against the Browns, couldn't get anything going on offense, got blown out. And you blame that on Burrow not practicing and not being available until right up before the game. And then they go out there and do that. And it's not unique to the injury situation with Burrow. He's been bad against the Browns really his entire career. Myles Garrett's unblockable. They can't handle him. But that was week 1. Moving into week 2, you're at home, got the Ravens coming in, really need to take care of your business, level things with them, move forward with the season. You lose to Baltimore, all of a sudden, you're 2 games behind them plus the tiebreaker in the division, 2 games in. Not to say there's not 15 more games to make up ground, but that's the situation. And Lamar flat outplayed Joe yesterday. Dropped a gorgeous pass in the red zone for a touchdown, was really elusive with his legs, picked up the first down that iced the game by moving around in the pocket and then escaping off to the right. And Joe had a red zone pick that was awful. Just did not see the safety at all. And that's a concern, one, but I think that can be alleviated pretty quickly when you look at Joe's start last year. They started 0-2. He was terrible. Turned it over 5 times in the opener. Couldn't get things going in week 2 against Dallas. And then they got rolling and they were right there with a chance to be the 1 seed in the AFC. You know, obviously what happens with DeMar Hamlin, they don't play that game, and Kansas City ends up winning the end. But they were right there to get the 1 seed in the AFC. And so I can push away the 0-2 start because Burrow didn't practice again in training camp, didn't play in the preseason, and he's got to get his sea legs under him again and get things moving. Here's why it's different a little bit. I think he's hurt. He's limping off the field, running off to the bench, putting the gun on his calf. Potentially came back too quick. And if he hurts that thing again and has got to miss 5 or 6 weeks, this thing's basically on ice. Like, they're not going to be able to recover from that. And it's a bummer because now you're into this mega deal and you're going to have to manipulate the roster a little bit to accommodate Joe. And, oh, by the way, Jamar's contract is coming. It's coming 11 months from now. So I'm a little anxious about my Cincinnati Bengals. Been diehard for 3 years. Because, 1, you're off to a bad start. 2, your quarterback, who is the franchise, is gimpy. And 3, financially, things get a little tougher moving forward. So they're not done. And maybe Joe's fine. And maybe over the course of a week, with taking things a little bit easier at practice, you get healthier. But you got to get it in gear. Because you're 2 games back. You got a home game with the Rams, who are a little better than we thought. Super Bowl rematch. And you're at the Titans. We know they can get after the passer. Should be able to win a game at the Cardinals. And you got the Seahawks, 49ers, Bills, at the Ravens, at the Jaguars, at the Chiefs. I mean, there's a lot to bite off here. And I'm a little concerned with Joe's health and the way he's been playing. They got it rolling a little bit in the second half. And they went down. Higgins played really well. And the Ravens did a good job of taking Chase away. But Burrow looks rusty and gimpy, which is not a real good thing for the Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll see how things do moving forward for the Who Days. But we're really more Who Dats. And we'll get to a little bit more of that in hour number 2 as the Saints will take on Carolina tonight at 6 o'clock. We just chatted with Lance Moore. I almost said Joe Horn. No, J.C. Horn, Joe's son, Lance Moore, is who we just talked to. And appreciate him for giving us a little bit of time. If you missed that, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on Google, anywhere you find your podcast. You can also find us on YouTube each and every day. If you're catching us on YouTube right now, you can just scroll back 15, 20 minutes. You'll catch all of our Lance Moore interview from Charlotte. He was great. If you missed my reaction to LSU and Mississippi State, that was the first 30 minutes of the show. I loved what LSU did on the offensive side. Thought things really came alive for the Tigers offensively. And on defense, I thought LSU was really good, but I also thought that Mississippi State was grossly underprepared and poorly coached. I don't have another way to say it other than those two. So if you missed any of all that, you can always catch our stuff on demand. I want to remind you, we have 2 YouTube channels we'd love you to subscribe to. It helps us out a ton, and it can help you out a ton. Hunt on LSU gets you all our LSU content each and every day. Beck does a good job of cutting those down into in a 10-minute intervals. You can digest those as they come up on your homepage, and Hunt on Saints as well. On our Hunt on Saints YouTube page, you subscribe to that, you'll get all our Saints coverage right there on YouTube. Hour number 2 is coming at you. Denton Day. We always talk about the weekend in college football from a national perspective with Denton, who hosts on SiriusXM on Saturday evenings. So we'll chat with Denton Day at 2:30. When we come back, my thoughts on the Southeastern Conference. What's the deal with Bama? How about Georgia? What do we think about some of the games we saw? I'll give my thoughts on all of that coming up after SportsCenter. Hope your work week is off to a really good start. Come back with us. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
The NFL season is here. Now's the time to get incredible offers from America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 are going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app's easy to use. You can bet on everything from spreads, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN. That promo code is important. That tells you that we sent you to FanDuel. It's FanDuel.com/1045ESPN. And kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as a non-withdrawable bonus bet that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP. NFL Sunday Ticket offer ends 9/18/23. No refunds. Terms and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and current form of payment. Commercial use excluded. Subscription renews. Cancel anytime.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Bayou Ford is taking $10,000 off MSRP on select new 23 Ford F-150 trucks. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Scoocha, fall in the air, fall.
is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time.
I'm Christine Lisi. Moving forward, Jalen Milroe, Alabama's starting quarterback. The announcement today from Coach Nick Saban. He said Milroe has played better than Tyler Buckner and Ty Simpson in competition. Milroe has had an up-and-down start to the season. He started the first 2 games, was benched this past weekend. Saints and Panthers kick off the opener of a Monday Night Football doubleheader, 7 Eastern, ESPN and ESPN2, and the Browns visit the Steelers. It's been a while since the Browns have won a regular season game in Pittsburgh. ESPN 850 Cleveland's Aaron Goldhammer.
All week, everybody in Cleveland super confident, chest puffed out. You know, the Browns haven't won a regular season game in Pittsburgh in 20 years. And this morning, everybody's like, we're nervous. I've been on the Steelers all week. I'm not going to believe the Browns can win here. I don't believe it's physically possible until I actually see them do it.
Aaron Goldhammer on Unsportsmanlike. Browns Steelers 8 Eastern on ABC and ESPN Plus. Cleveland is a 2-point road favorite tonight per Caesars Sportsbook. Lions running back David Montgomery says he could miss a couple of weeks with a thigh injury sustained yesterday.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Thanks for hanging out with us. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Begg back there on the 1s and 2s. Time to talk SEC football. It's a Denton Day coming up in 30 minutes. You got to be accountable. That's very important. You have to be accountable. If you're not accountable, what are you? So, after a tough week of SEC picks, I said, I got to get back on the horse. We got to figure things out. Because when you're coming off of a week where you only go 4-8, you got to do better than that. So, let's tell you how I did before I give you some of my thoughts on the actual action. Well, I took Kansas State to cover the 4 against Missouri. They just straight lost. So, they didn't cover. That's a loser. I did take South Carolina plus 27.5. That is a winner. Got home. Thought Alabama would cover 33 against South Florida. How'd that go? They cover? No, they did not. That's a loser. Thought the Aggies would cover 36.5 against ULM. They did throttle the Warhawks. Final there was 47-3. So 2-2 there to start. Had Tennessee minus a 6 in Gainesville. Nope. Had Vanderbilt covering 5 points. They were a favorite going to UNLV. You surely can beat UNLV by 5. No, they didn't beat UNLV at all. They lost. That's a loser. Had Georgia Tech plus 17.5. They let a touchdown in with a minute to go, so they didn't cover either. Then I had Arkansas laying 8 points against BYU. Nope, that's another loser. Akron and Kentucky. I had Kentucky. I laid the 25, and that one did get home. However, not great. Final tally in week 3 against the spread for me was a roaring 3-6. So we have 14 winners and 19 losers. 14 and 19 against the spread in Southeastern Conference play. That's not very good. But let's talk about the actual action on the field in the SEC and what I thought of that. And we'll start, probably not the exact place you want me to because you thought I would start with Alabama. But I'm going to start with Florida and Tennessee because I thought that game was really fascinating. I had Tennessee laying the 6 there. And Tennessee just got absolutely whipped up front at both lines of scrimmage. Trevor Etienne went for 172 yards on the ground for Florida, and it wasn't just a one long run where the Tennessee safety or linebacker, whoever he was, just didn't even try to tackle him. It wasn't just that. He was running all night and chunk plays all night, and that's all Florida wants to do is run the ball. You know they've got Johnson and Etienne, and that's all they want to do. They're not going to snap it to Graham Mertz and have him throw it 41 times. They have to run it, and Tennessee could not stop it. Conversely, Tennessee only ran for 33 yards. Like, this is a team, 3.3 yards per carry. Like, this is a Tennessee team that, while you think of them as high flying and all over the place and going fast and throwing it deep and scoring a bunch of points, like, they run the ball really well, and they couldn't run the ball against Florida. Again, 3.3 yards per carry. All Graham Mertz had to do offensively for Florida was just dink and dunk it. He completed 19 passes for 166 yards. But he didn't turn it over, and they just ran it down Tennessee's throats, and the Vols could not punch back offensively. Now, I said entering the season that I thought that a lot of what Tennessee did last year was thanks to Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt. Cedric Tillman when he was healthy. Those are elite NFL-type guys. Well, they're elite college players. We'll see if Hooker is an elite NFL guy when his time comes. But I think Tillman and Hyatt are both going to be good NFL players. We saw Hyatt yesterday. And so I thought that they would take a step back. But I didn't see this. And I have a question that I've posed to myself, and I think it's worth considering yourself. Like, what about this Tennessee offense on the road in hostile environments? And before you run off the road, listen to me. Yes, I was in Tiger Stadium last year. One of the most hostile environments in all of college football, and Tennessee was running wind sprints up and down the field. However, LSU muffed the opening kickoff, gave them 7 points immediately, and then couldn't get 2 4th and 1s. And there was no environment. The crowd was dead. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. But you go into Athens, that place is on springs, and Tennessee didn't look very good. You go into South Carolina at night, that place was nuts. Tennessee did not look very good. You go to Florida, the Swamp, at night. Tom Petty playing, lights, they look terrible. Is there something to the fact that this Tennessee offense that relies on going fast and communication and moving quickly maybe bogs down on the road? I don't know. But it may be worth looking at. Casey asked me earlier today, like, is Florida not as good? Is Florida better than you thought, or is Tennessee not as good? Both. That was far better by Florida than what we saw against Utah. And Tennessee looked overmatched. They were awful against Austin Peay last week. Thought that was just sleepwalking, getting ready for Florida. Nope. Went down there and got whipped again. So that's interesting. Now we'll get to Bama. If you just heard at SportsCenter, Bama's decided Jalen Milroe is going to be their guy, which we knew was coming. But that doesn't change the fact that they don't have a quarterback. Because Jalen Milroe, in comparison to the elite guys they have had for the last 7 or 8 years, is totally inept. He has a skill set. We know what it is. He runs really well. He throws a good deep ball. But he's not a top half of the SEC quarterback. He's not. Meanwhile, while everyone's talking about quarterback, their offensive line is playing awful. South Florida had 5 sacks. Texas had 5 sacks. Oh, by the way, that's 3 different quarterbacks doing it. It's not like one guy's playing patty cake back there. Milroe's taking sacks. Buckner's taking sacks. Simpson's taking sacks. Everybody's taking sacks. Bama is nowhere near what they have been. Once again, I will tell you, I'm not declaring this thing over for Nick Saban and Bama. I'm not calling for his retirement. I'm not saying he can never win again. I'm saying they got no quarterback. And the offensive line, which we thought was going to play bully ball and run it and play behind Milroe and dominate the line of scrimmage and allow Alabama to overwhelm you that way, is getting whipped. They're getting beat by the South Florida Bulls. Western Kentucky owned South Florida the week prior. I don't want to hear about the rain. Bama has no quarterback and their offensive line is no good. They'll get better, but right now, it's not pretty. And I'll tell you, it brings me some joy. I forgot to DVR the Feinbaum show today. I'll find it on demand. I got to hear the calls. One thing to get blown out by Texas. The other is that you're going to halftime with South Florida losing. Georgia, South Carolina. 14-3 South Carolina at the half. That's the biggest halftime deficit in almost 3 years for Georgia. And I think you could look at that 14-3 at half and say, Georgia misses Stetson Bennett. They don't have it. They lost a lot of those guys on defense. Their offense isn't nearly as explosive. And okay, like, I'm not going to, shout you down off that. But I did watch the second half of that game, and that's Georgia. They absolutely hogtied South Carolina in the second half. Spencer Rattler in the second half was 6 of 24 with 2 interceptions. Georgia's first 4 drives out of the half, 6 plays, 75-yard touchdown, 9 plays, 49 yards touchdown. They drove down and missed a field goal, then 8 plays, 61 yards touchdown. And oh, by the way, South Carolina couldn't run the ball at all in the game. 16 carries for 53 yards. The running backs in the game, 8 carries, 18 yards. So, yeah, the scoreboard's not pretty. Yeah, the first half offensively was bad. But wait a second. Georgia took South Carolina, crushed them at the line of scrimmage, turned their passing game into mush in the second half, and went right down the field 4 times in a row. So, I'm not telling you that Georgia stinks. Do I think Stetson Bennett's better than Carson Beck? Yes. Do I think Georgia's the best team in the SEC? Yes. Like that second half, they pounded South Carolina into submission. And look, South Carolina, they're not great. Spencer Rattler is doing everything for them and deserves a ton of credit for it. Yeah, I read you his second half stat line and it stinks. He's got no running game and Georgia's pinning their ears back with the whole crowd behind them. It's a difficult spot. I would argue the most difficult spot in college football currently. And he just didn't have a chance. But I thought it was a vintage for Georgia performance in the second half, but because the first half was so bad, everyone's kind of trying to jump to that conclusion. I'm not there yet. I think Georgia's going to be just fine. And we only got through half my thoughts on the SEC, so when we come back, we'll do the other half of those thoughts, and we'll chat with Denton Day in 20 minutes on college football nationally. I want to hear what his thoughts are on Notre Dame. I want to hear his thoughts on Deion as well, and kind of what we saw in that game late, and some thoughts on LSU. So we'll get Denton Day's thoughts in 20 minutes. But when we come back, we got BYU Arkansas to talk about, Ole Miss and Georgia Tech. Those are LSU's next 2 opponents, Arkansas and Ole Miss, plus Missouri. That was interesting on Saturday as well. Come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathandClosets.com is that website. Whether you like it or not, the holidays are going to show up here pretty quickly. And David Duvall, One Bath and Closets, a great place to go for a holiday gift. Bathroom remodel, tub to shower conversion, full closet remodel. You would be the king of the house if you got your wife a brand new closet for Christmas, right? Be awesome. David Duvall and his team can do it. Get that free consultation at OneBathandClosets.com. Doesn't cost you anything for David Duvall and his team to come out and show you what they can do. It'll start with a questionnaire. What do you have? What do you want? Okay, here's what we can do. They'll walk you through the process. And I can promise you this. With David Duvall and One Bath and Closets, you're not going to call them, have them come out, run through the job real quickly, cut corners to get to the next job, and then 3 months later, they got to come back and fix something. Nope. They don't take shortcuts. They're going to do it right the first time and leave that competition behind. Visit the website. You can see the testimonials, picture their great work, and as I mentioned, get that free consultation. OneBathandClosets.com is the website. OneBathandClosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on
Charles Hannegriff join us for the next edition of Live at Lunch from Doe's Eat Place in Mid-City on Government Street. Andy Isco is with us. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Got back home from the show on Saturday, 3:55 out cue for me. It's usually like 1 in the morning. Got home, fired the TV up, had the end of Bama, South Florida, which was terrible. Then I had Tennessee and Florida going. I had Ole Miss and Georgia Tech going. I had Arkansas and BYU going. Plus, was listening to the Cubs game at the same time. Don't ask how that went. It's very poorly. It's been going very poorly for a week on that front. Talk about that later. But it was very nice. I enjoyed watching a ton of SEC football. I don't get to do that very many weekends, and I did on Saturday, which was cool. I was watching a lot of BYU Arkansas, not because it was the greatest game anyone's ever seen, but of course LSU plays Arkansas this weekend at home, so I was keeping a pretty close eye on that one. Look, Arkansas hits a big play on their first drive for a touchdown. Then they run a punt back. It's 14-0. And if you remember BYU and Arkansas last year, I mean, Arkansas went over 630 yards of offense. It was just absolutely – they were running wind sprints up and down the field in Provo. And I kind of figured it'd be the same type deal, especially after it's 14-0. Well, after 14-0, Arkansas got outscored 38-17, and they lose at 38-31 to BYU. Arkansas won the time of possession 35-25. They moved the ball offensively. They were running it, throwing it. Even without Rocket Sanders, they moved the ball. But they got to third downs, and they were just awful. 2 of 13 on third downs. And the backbreaker for Arkansas in this game, 14 penalties for 125 yards. They got 4 penalties on the offensive line on their last drive to try to go tie the game. 4. That's hard to do. And this is Sam Pittman's baby. The offensive line is his baby. And you would think that this Arkansas team, with a third-year starting quarterback and Sam Pittman in year 4, sorry. Got to do some counting there on the fingers. Would have a really good offensive line. That's what he recruits. That's what he develops. He did that at Arkansas under Bielema. He did that at Georgia. And they're not very good on the offensive line right now. And they're even worse when they're committing penalties. So I was skeptical of Arkansas's playmakers. They did make some plays against BYU. They need to get Rocket Sanders back. We'll see if he's available in the game coming up on Saturday. But penalties and third downs just undid Arkansas in this game, and they lose a home one to BYU. And this is something that I alluded to on Friday, that I talked about on my pregame and postgame on Saturday, and that we'll certainly bring up this week. And it was all anybody in Northwest Arkansas was talking about after that game and again yesterday. It's that you just lost a home game to BYU. And this scheduling seems a little bit harsh, but it is what it is. You're in Baton Rouge, then you go to Arlington to play A&M, then you're in Tuscaloosa and in Oxford in back-to-back weeks. 4 consecutive weeks away from home, playing LSU, A&M, Alabama, and Ole Miss. That is a nightmare and could easily be 5 straight losses. And when you're in year 4 and you've got a third-year starting quarterback and you lose 5 in a row and you're staring down the barrel of a 5 or 6 win season, conversations are had. And it's one of those deals where, like, kind of know who you are, know what you can be. Arkansas kind of needs to know what it is. And I think Sam Pittman's a fine coach. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's awful. But I think he's brought them some stability. They've done a pretty good job in the transfer portal. He may have whiffed on the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator hires. Like, that could be a case. But we're a month away from that conversation. All we need to do here in Baton Rouge is make sure that the losing streak gets to 2. And we'll see if that happens on Saturday night in Death Valley. Ole Miss and Georgia Tech. How about this for Ole Miss? Just an interesting little nugget here on the Rebels. Tulane was within 7 points of Ole Miss with 2 minutes and 56 seconds to go last week. And Georgia Tech was within 7 points with 10 and a half minutes to go on Saturday night. Like, they've been up against it against Tulane and Georgia Tech, which incidentally, weirdly, were both SEC teams at one point. I don't think they have Swanee on the schedule at any point moving forward, but Tulane and Georgia Tech, yeah. But they've made the plays late to win the games. And one of the reasons I was not super high on Ole Miss was I didn't think Jackson Dart played that great last year. Like, you look at the end of the season and they were losing a bunch of games. I'll tell you this. I don't think Tulane's awesome, and I certainly don't think Georgia Tech's awesome. But Jackson Dart has played very well. He's looked very Corralish. Matt Corralish, that is, in the last 2 weeks. Like, 10 of 18 is not a great passing day statistically in terms of completion percentage and number of completions and all that kind of stuff, but he completed 10 balls for 251 yards. They're making those count down the field. And then you look at the running statistics, and Dart ran it for 136 yards and 2 more scores. We'll learn anything we need to learn about Ole Miss coming up on Saturday. They got to go to Tuscaloosa, and we'll see what the situation is in that game and how they handle it. I'm not ready to anoint them as some sort of elite level team for beating Tulane, who I still don't think is good, especially without Michael Pratt, and Georgia Tech, who can't be good, and they got Haynes King playing quarterback. I think they're getting by against some mediocre teams. But I do like Kiffin as a play caller, and Dart is playing better than I anticipated. So we'll see what they are. And last one is Missouri. They win the game on a 61-yard field goal. And that's all anybody's going to talk about is Mevis hitting the field goal and the rush in the field against Kansas State and all that kind of jazz. I cannot get over the way that game was handled from a clock management perspective by Missouri. For Eli Drinkwitz to allow a delay of game when you're looking at a 56-yard field goal to win the game and pushing that thing back to a 61-yard attempt because you can't handle the clock is atrocious and should be highlighted in this game. Yes, Mevis absolutely took the limelight off of Drinkwitz and turned it into hysteria with a phenomenal kick that won him the game. And the kids should celebrate that, and that's fantastic. If I'm the athletic director, I'm walking down to Eli and going, "Hey man, nice win. I know y'all got embarrassed by Kansas State last year, so that's a good win for y'all. What the hell are you doing? Why is the team in a huddle on the sideline while the play clock's running down, and you get to delay a game when we were setting up for a 56-yard field goal? Whew, not good. But they found a way. and got it done. I was looking at my SEC over-unders that I gave you the week before the season started. It is not looking good for me. I did have Bama under 10.5, which looks good. They have to lose one more game. Arkansas, I had over 6.5. That's iffy. Didn't think they were going to lose to BYU. They don't look very good. I had Auburn under 6.5. That's iffy. I had Mississippi State over 6.5. That looks terrible. I had Ole Miss under 7.5. That looks terrible. I had A&M over 8.5. That's real iffy now with the loss to Miami. Georgia, I still feel okay about over 11.5, but maybe not. Florida had under 5.5. That no longer looks great with that Tennessee win. Kentucky over 7.5, maybe. Missouri under 6.5 doesn't look great. Had them losing to Kansas State. Tennessee under 9.5 looks pretty good. Vandy over 3.5, that looks bad. You lose to UNLV and Wake. Nope. They're going to have to win 2 conference games now. That's going to be tough. You could have gotten by the running Rebs out there in Vegas. You'd have a real shot, but I don't think it's going to happen. So we'll see. I gave you those on August 30th. I've got them written down. I've got them earmarked. We'll go back to them after Thanksgiving and see how we did. But things are dicey from what I picked earlier. I think I've just whiffed totally on Mississippi State. I'll admit that on Wednesday. We'll do power rankings, and I had them like 5th last week. That was a disaster. I didn't think they were going to be that poorly coached. But we'll talk about that coming up on Wednesday's show. Before we get to Denton Day, I want to remind you, 104.5 ESPN, along with Acura of Baton Rouge, teaming up to honor our military and raise funds for Folds of Honor. This nonprofit organization provides scholarships to spouses and children of soldiers who were killed or disabled in service. To donate to this important cause, visit our website, 1045ESPN.com. Everyone who makes a donation will be entered to win exclusive prizes. Folds of Honor, to honor their sacrifice and educate their legacy. Denton Day, Sirius XM, every Saturday night, joins us here every single Monday. We'll talk some National College Football with Denton next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
I heard earlier today there may be a disturbance down there in the Gulf somewhere, well, in the tropics. That's not the news I want to hear, but couldn't be totally unexpected this time of year. Get prepared for hurricanes moving forward at your home. Boudreaux's Electric is your one-stop shop there for your Generac generators. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux have operated Boudreaux's Electric for 40 years. They're a certified Generac generator dealer. Not just that, they are a premier Generac dealer. They're in the top 3% nationwide. Some have huge homes. Some have modest homes. They've got a Generac generator for you. It's not a one-size-fits-all deal. You want to power a huge, massive home? They can do that. You just want to keep the AC rolling and the fridge and freezer kicking when a storm rolls through? They got you covered there as well. Got to contact them. Have them come out. They'll customize a generator for you. And the best part, every single generator comes with a free 10-year warranty. 10-year warranty with Boudreaux's Electric. Just call them at the same number they've had for 40 years. It's 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. That's Boudreaux's Electric.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary. For those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded. Because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is is a taco more than just a taco when it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows. We're recapping LSU, Mississippi State. You'll hear from Brian Kelly, and we'll preview Monday Night Football with the Saints and the Panthers. So join us for Monday's AFR, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
My pick on Saints-Panthers coming up in 25 minutes from right now. But right now, let's go out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline, do as we do each Monday afternoon, chat with our guy Denton Day, SiriusXM College Football Overtime. Denton, how are you, sir?
Hunt, I'm doing fantastic. Another week of college football in the books, and now we get to look forward to week 4, which is sure to be nothing short of amazing.
I mean, we thought week 3 was terrible. I asked you to get me excited for it on last Monday, and you said, well, I can't really do that. And then it was awesome. So that's just kind of the way it goes, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the weeks that you don't think are going to be great end up actually being a lot of fun. And especially if you're a degenerate like me, you put some money into games that you're maybe not invested in, and all of a sudden, when you put some money down, you get invested in those games. It's funny how that works.
Quite literally invested in those games, as it were. Let's talk about Florida State first, because I do want to talk a lot of SEC. I thought a lot of the interesting storylines to me were in the SEC over the weekend. But Florida State just kind of asleep at the wheel against Boston College, let the Eagles all the way back into it. Jordan Travis missed a little bit of time. Any concern there with Florida State, just a 2-point win up there in Chestnut Hill?
Yeah, that was really concerning, to be honest. And maybe this is a credit to Boston College for showing up to play and not being afraid of a dominant team like Florida State. But if I remember correctly, I believe I told you last week, I think Florida State is the best team in college football.
Yep.
And the team that I saw on Saturday was not the best team in college football. You're right. Like, falling asleep at the wheel, I think, is a really great way to describe what that second half was. This should have been a blowout. Florida State is talented enough for this to have been a blowout, and it wasn't. And it was so close to the point where you're like, if they make one mistake late in this fourth quarter, they might be going down to Boston College. So I was a little worried with what I saw on the defensive side from Florida State and the offensive side as well. I mean, they should have been able to hang 50-plus points on Boston College. I know they're a Boston College Power 5 team in the ACC, but Florida State is one of the best teams in college football. They should be able to hang just about 50 on nearly everybody with that offense. So I was a little disappointed with the way they performed this weekend.
Two more, actually, both out west here. I can't tell you I watched a second of Washington, Michigan State, but for Washington to go in to East Lansing and win 41-7 behind 473 yards by Michael Penix, it says something to me. Is Washington a playoff contender?
100%. I have Washington in my playoff 4, and to be honest, Michael Penix was my Heisman winner in the preseason. I love what he I love what he is as a quarterback, and I love how their roster has shaped up. They bring back just about everybody from last season, and it looks like they haven't skipped a beat. Now, Michigan State, this win is kind of weird because Michigan State has a lot of other non-football related things on their plate surrounding that program. But with that said, even if the Mel Tucker situation, that cloud over their head, wasn't in full effect right now, the result wouldn't have been much different. Washington is a legit team in the Pac-12 conference. I can't wait for them to start getting bigger games and people start paying more attention to them in some of these bigger national windows as the season progresses when they start to play the meat of their Pac-12 schedule.
Well, one team that gets in every big national window is Colorado. I'll leave it open-ended. What do you think about all this?
I think we are. I hope we all enjoy the ride. I do think there is going to be a bit more of a coming to reality over the next few weeks. However, with that said, I do want Colorado to continue to be good. I think having the eyes and having Deion Sanders being in a prominent position is good for this sport. Whether you love Deion, whether you hate Deion, whether you love the way this program is designed or hate it, the fact that it's polarizing is a good thing for this sport. So I do hope this continues to be a big story, but I am ready for it to be done being the biggest story because there are other teams that deserve the spotlight that are going to be much better in the long run this season, especially when we get to November and December.
Let's use this past week to ease into next week. Alabama's played musical chairs at quarterback. I guess that's over. Nick Saban said today, hey, we're going back to Milroe. They're welcoming Ole Miss in, who's unbeaten. What do you make of Alabama's quarterback situation and how that shapes up with Ole Miss coming to town?
Their quarterback situation is gross. There's no other way to put it. I mean, you're doing musical chairs in week 3. Mm-hmm. I know South Florida isn't like the greatest team in the world, and maybe that's a team that you could do the musical chairs thing with. But if you're going to do musical chairs at the quarterback position, you better score more than 17 points, especially with one of those touchdowns late in the fourth quarter. This offense is a complete disaster. I wouldn't be stunned if Ole Miss beats them. Like that feels weird to say out loud because Lane Kiffin doesn't beat Nick Saban very often, right? Like that's just the reality of what that rivalry, if you can even call it a rivalry, has been. But it wouldn't stun me if Ole Miss walks in and beats Alabama because this Alabama team, they're not a top-tier team in college football. They're just not. They're a second-tier team at best. And depending on what this quarterback situation looks like, Hunt, over the next couple of weeks, they might be a Tier 3 team. Like they really are just not they're not a great college football team this year. It sounds weird to say, but it's true.
I'm struggling how to phrase this. It's like why and where are their biggest issues outside of quarterback? Because we've known them to just be a fortress.
I mean, they've been a juggernaut for such a long time. They're losing in the trenches, which is so out of the ordinary. And it's not as big of a deal when you play a team like South Florida, but when you face off against a team that's in your weight class and on your level when it comes to recruiting, if you're not winning in the trenches, you're in trouble. And then on top of that, this has been something that's kind of happened the past 2 years. I mean, Bryce Young was awesome last year in spite of this, but their wide receivers just aren't top tier anymore. We are way past the days of Jerry Jeudy being there, of Devontae Smith being there, Jalen Waddle. I mean, for such a long time, they were wide receiver U. They're not that anymore. So it makes the quarterback's life all the more difficult when your guys aren't running wide open down the field the way they have been for the past few years.
Denton Day, college football overtime 11-1 here Central on SiriusXM each and every Saturday. Ohio State Notre Dame should be a lot of fun from South Bend. What do you think?
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm hoping that game lives up to the hype because I think that could be the game of the week. Notre Dame is as legit as they come now with Sam Hartman, and their running back, Audric Estime, for my money right now, is probably the best running back in college football. He is so good. And you go up against this Ohio State offense that finally seems to have its legs underneath of them. Now, granted, they haven't played stiff competition yet, but they looked really good this past weekend. Obviously, throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr., good idea. Throwing to Emeka Mbuka, very good idea if you're a struggling quarterback. But this is going to be, I think, the game of the week. I think this is going to be an absolute bloodbath, and I hope it comes down to a play or two in the fourth quarter that ends up being the deciding factor here. I think both these teams are really good.
The loser of that game, how hurt are their playoff chances?
I think both of these teams can afford to lose a game. I think it might be a bit more difficult for Ohio State because that means you have to beat Penn State and you have to beat Michigan. It would be nice to go into those two games in particular with a little bit of leeway if you're the Buckeyes. but I do think both teams can lose this game and still potentially get into the college football playoff. They would just need maybe a little bit of help from other teams. But, I mean, I don't know about you, Hunt, but based on what I've seen for the past 3 weeks, I'm not sure we'll see more than one or two unbeaten teams. Like, this feels like a year where we might not have a single unbeaten team at the top of college football. And to me, that's fun because that makes the college football playoff a lot more intriguing as we get to the months of November and December.
Last year in August, I said, look, this feels like it's Ohio State, it's Alabama, it's Georgia, and there's not really anybody else that can play for it. And it turns out that Georgia did win, which is correct, but TCU did get there, so I was kind of right, kind of wrong. But I am for a little bit of chaos. I don't know that I need Georgia beating TCU by 60 points in the final, but I am welcoming to Notre Dame to get in the mix, or welcoming to Washington or somebody getting in the mix if they can stand up to it. And it feels like the juggernauts are not quite at juggernaut level this year, which means maybe some more teams can fit in. Is that a decent way to say it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that leaves the door open for a team like Washington, a team like USC. I mean, Michigan was in the college football playoff last year, but letting them get in there, letting Florida State get in there, having Notre Dame get in there, I think the sport is at its best when we get to the point where we have 6, 7, potentially 8 teams that all have legitimate arguments for the college football playoff. And it feels like the past couple of years, like, yeah, there might have been 5 teams, but you can really undercut one of those teams really easily, and then someone's going to lose. Oregon a couple of years ago had a sure thing in Herbert's final year there to get to the college football playoff, and then they weirdly lose to Arizona State. And you're like, how did this happen? Yeah. I think this sport is better when there's 8 teams, 7, 8 teams that have the potential to really get into the college football playoff, and it's not just the regular 4.
I catch myself when I'm talking about it, and I'm going, yeah, well, Washington got in, and they got hammered, and Michigan State got in, and they didn't even score, but I don't think that the teams that owned those teams are as good as they were at that time. I don't think Alabama is a world beater right now. Georgia's got to work some things out on offense. We'll see what Ohio State is. I mean, am I making sense?
Yeah, you're 100% making sense. There is no, if you were to ask, 10 locked-in college football fans right now, who's the best team in college football, you are not going to get one consensus answer. Yeah. I think that's going to be spread across, and I think that's a good thing because you're right. There is no world beater, at least at this point in the season.
If I made you bet your first nickel, Florida State's a 1.5-point favorite at Clemson. How you feeling about that one on Saturday?
I still lean Florida State. So if you're gonna make me bet a nickel, I would go with Florida State, but not as confidently had you have asked me this question last week.
Sure. I think. I mean, how does Clemson get it done in that game?
They got to make things ugly up front. If they can get to Jordan Travis, and to Dabo Swinney's credit, he doesn't do great in the transfer portal at all. He doesn't do great with receivers in the past few years. But the trenches are where Dabo Swinney has always had a really good eye for recruiting. If they can muck the trenches up, I think that's their best way of getting this done. If they're going to try and go blow for blow with Florida State, good luck, because they don't have the offensive firepower to do that.
Got to ask you about the local boys before we get out of here. LSU routes Mississippi State over the weekend. They'll welcome in Arkansas this weekend. What did you think of the way the Tigers played on Saturday?
I thought they looked really good, and anytime you see Malik Neighbors have nearly 250 yards, that's a really good sign. I think they have started to really click on offense. Losing to Florida State the way that they did seemed to wake them up a little bit. I hope as they continue SEC play that they keep winning in the way that they're winning with this kind of offensive output, because you can throw them right into that conversation if that's the case. If they run this table, they're a college football playoff team. I look at them honestly right now, Hunt, as the second best team in the SEC, and the gap between them and Georgia is not as far as many people might think.
The game goes according to schedule on Saturday. I should be finishing up right before you get started, and I don't think you'll be short of talking points on Saturday. So enjoy the football, and we'll talk next week.
Hunter, appreciate it as always, my friend. Be good.
He is Denton Day, College Football Overtime on SiriusXM every single Saturday from 11 to 1 our time here. Appreciate him for giving us kind of a national perspective each and every Monday. Take a time out. We're going to play Take It or Leave It, but I got a Saints-Panthers pick as well. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
The NFL season is here, and now's the time to get incredible offers from America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, just $5, and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app's easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. Visit FanDuel.com/1045ESPN and kick off this NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 and present in Louisiana. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as a non-withdrawable bonus bet that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-877-770-STOP. NFL Sunday Ticket offer ends 9/18/23. No refunds. Terms and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base plan required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and current form of payment. Commercial use excluded. Subscription renews. Cancel anytime.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Scooncha fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Charles Hannegriff join us for the next edition of Live at Lunch from Doe's Eat Place in Mid-City on Government Street. Andy Isco is with us. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
104.5 ESPN and Citizens Bank and Trust are looking for the ultimate tailgate. Snap a pic of your setup and upload it to 1045ESPN.com for a chance to win $500 Rouse's gift card. Our judges are going to select a winner on September the 29th. It's the ultimate tailgate giveaway from Rouse's Market, Citizens Bank and Trust, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. Reports are that Sergio Garcia attempted to pay over 700,000 pounds in fines to be eligible for the Ryder Cup. Take it or leave it.
So just taken his money and then told him he couldn't play in the Ryder Cup. That's what I would have done. Put me in charge. Now, Sergio, just give it up, okay? And you still can't play, but enjoy your time on live. Great. One, I don't want him to play because I don't like him. Two, I don't want him to play because he always beats us. So I'm out on Sergio. I'm out on Team Europe. We're getting close to Ryder Cup time, and I'm very excited about that, but I don't need any Sergio in my life, really ever, under any circumstance. So take your 700 pounds you don't have to play and just ride off into the live sunset. That's what you took the money for. Enjoy it.
Cubs have lost 5 in a row. They're dead. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave that. They're not dead. They're playing horrendously. They cannot hit. Their bullpen is tired and hurt. And they've lost 5 games in a row in the biggest spot of the season. Played the Rockies, who were atrocious, and they couldn't beat them. They went to Arizona, who they're fighting with for a wild card spot, and they got swept. All the while, Arizona was wearing khaki pants, which is just offensive. And it was a disgusting display all weekend long, and I watched almost all of it, and it really, really dampened my weekend. However, they get an off day today, come back and play the Pirates and the Rockies, who both stink, and they need to win 5 out of 6. They win 5 out of 6 against these awful teams. All of a sudden, you're right there. You ought to be able to make the playoffs. You're just a half game out. We weren't going to win the division. They're not dead. They just got to figure it out. All the Cubs fans on Twitter have given up. Beck over here has given up. I have not given up. We'll be out here tomorrow. Got to get it done. I'll be at Pluckers Trivia, be watching the Cubs. It's going to be fun. We're going to win. They just got to take care of business this week, because next week you got the Brewers and Braves, who are pretty good. So that's a bit of an issue. But the Cubs are not dead.
Last one here. Monday Night Football double headers. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Why not? Good football. I get the channel, which is a positive. You never know at my house. No NBC, no Fox, but we do get ESPN, so that'll be a good thing. I'm excited to watch the Hoodats play tonight. I'm going to get to my final pick here shortly, but let's recap the show first before we toss things to the final pick. If you missed any of today's show, you can catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Of course, you can find us on Google or on YouTube. Open the show, LSU Mississippi State talk, the first 30 minutes. And we got to Lance Moore, Saints Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion from Charlotte. He's there with Sharif Ishak and WDSU talking all things Saints and Panthers. So got a preview from Lance Moore. Talked at the end of hour number 1 about how I think the Bengals are in some trouble, and that makes me sad. Burrow's limping. He's using the gun on the calf. They're 0-2. They got some issues in Bengal land, so that's not great. My SEC picks against the spread, plus my thoughts on some SEC football in the first 30 minutes of hour number 2, and then Denton Day, the host of College Football Overtime, just talking college football from a national perspective. So if you missed any of it, catch it on demand again at all those places I told you a little earlier. All right, Saints and Panthers tonight. Let's get a final pick.
New Orleans Saints. Carolina Panthers. Final pick.
Look, big spot for the Saints here. We thought that they would go up to Carolina last year early in the season and just hammer the Panthers, and they got beat. I think this Saints team is better than the one last year. The offense was a little clunky last week. They got to get Kamara back, which would be very good, but they're not going to get that for another 2 weeks. So you go out there with Williams, and you ask Derek Carr to go out there and throw it a little bit, and hopefully he does that a little bit more. I like what they've got in Olave and Thomas. My biggest concern in this game is not Bryce Young. It's not the Panthers offense. It's the Saints offensive front and their ability to protect. Penning was a liability last week, and they've got to get that figured out, whether it's him playing better or giving some help. You can't help him every time, but you do have to help him. And we'll see if they can get that done. If Derek Carr is clean, he will do plenty enough work. Last week, the Falcons forced Bryce Young into 2 mistakes. This game moves really, really fast, and Dennis Allen's got a really good defense that played great and forced turnovers finally last week after a year where they couldn't force any last year. I think that they will force Bryce Young into a bad throw or two. I think they should be able to slow the Panthers down. I don't know that they'll hold up front as well as I'd like them to on the offensive line. Should be a raucous environment in Charlotte. It's a Panthers team that feels like they've got a good nucleus around them. Just got to let their quarterback grow up. But if you're a Saints fan, you just make sure that that doesn't happen tonight. Got to get after the quarterback, have the DBs make some plays on the football. I think they will. And ultimately, I think the Saints get off to a 2-0 start. They do that, tied right there with the Bucs, and I don't think the Bucs are going to sustain this. The Saints are the best team in this division. They need to show it tonight on the road and start moving things forward into week 3. I like the Saints tonight. I like them by a final score of 24-21. I do think it's close. It's the National Football League. I think it's low scoring, but I think the Saints get it done up there in Charlotte. We'll certainly be reacting to it on tomorrow's show. We'll have Sharif Ishak coming to us from Charlotte. We'll have Glenn West talking to us about the Tigers. He is the senior writer of Go 247. So very much looking forward to a Tuesday show, and I'm looking forward to tonight. My wife's all fired up. She's got Meyer dressed in his Saints gear for school today. My dad, lifelong Saints hater, is not real happy about that, but he's 3.5 hours away, so there's not much he can do about it. We'll be watching the Saints in our whole household tonight. I know you will as well, and we'll be reacting to it on tomorrow's show. So thanks for hanging out with us on a Monday. Hope your work week is off to an exceptional start, and I hope it finishes well with the Saints. I like the Monday night doubleheader. We'll be able to watch a little bit of the other game afterward on ABC, but we'll have all eyes on the black and gold here in South Louisiana. So hopefully it's a good football weekend for the state. We'll talk about it tomorrow on the show. Matt Moscona is about to drive you home on After Further Review. Thanks to Casey. Thanks to Jacob Beck. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same time and the same place. Always 1 to 3. It's the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.